I remember the day I realized I was my own worst financial enemy. It wasn't the taxes, it wasn't the economy, it was me. My spending, my habits, my lack of awareness. That day, I made a decision: no more losing money without learning something. No more letting liabilities dictate my future. And that decision changed everything. Tonight, I want to help you make that same decision to stop the losses, take control, and start turning every expense into an investment. Every time money touches your hands, I'd ask a question: will you grow me or waste me? Most people never answer consciously, and that's why they lose. You see, there are only two paths in life: the path of consumption and the path of creation. One ends in debt, the other ends in freedom. The good news? You can switch paths tonight. Because no matter how much you've lost, you can learn to make your money serve you instead of enslave you. You know, one of the greatest discoveries I ever made about money wasn't in a classroom or a business seminar. It came one day when I was sitting at my kitchen table, looking at a stack of bills and realizing that I had been confusing motion with progress. I was busy. Yes. I was earning. Yes. But I was also spending mindlessly, habitually, emotionally. And that's when it hit me. Not every dollar I spent was working for me. Some of it was quietly working against me. Most people never stop long enough to ask that question. They think because money is moving, progress is happening. But activity is not accomplishment, and spending is not investing. The wealthy understand this distinction clearly. Every dollar must do one of two things: either feed you or free you. Feed you with knowledge, with growth, with experiences that expand your value, or free you by creating assets that multiply your opportunities. Everything else, no matter how exciting in the moment, simply drains you. I used to think the goal was to earn enough money to afford what I wanted. But eventually, I realized the real goal is to manage what you already have so well that it multiplies without needing more effort. See, every time you spend money, you're voting for a certain kind of life. The problem is, most people are voting unconsciously. They buy emotionally, reactively, trying to fill a gap that money can never fill. That's why one of the simplest and most powerful disciplines you can adopt is to pause before you spend. Give every major purchase 24 hours to cool. If it's truly important, you'll still want it tomorrow. If not, you just saved yourself from another liability disguised as pleasure. I remember when I first started labeling my expenses, literally writing asset or liability next to each item. And I'll tell you, that little exercise changed everything. Because suddenly, I could see the truth of my habits. Most of what I was buying was designed to please me, not progress me. Coffee runs, fancy dinners, gadgets, things that faded the moment they arrived. But once I started redirecting that same money toward books, courses, and small investments, something shifted. My bank account didn't just look different, my mindset did. I stopped asking, can I afford this? And started asking, will this make me better? Money is a mirror. It reflects your decisions back to you. And if you don't tell it where to go, it will find a way to disappear. But when you become intentional, when you choose to spend only on what builds your mind or multiplies your wealth, something remarkable happens. You begin to experience a sense of peace, not because you have more, but because you finally know where it's all going. The moment you learn to distinguish between spending and investing, you take back control of your financial life, and that, my friends, is the first real step toward freedom. When I was a young man, I used to think my home was only a place to eat, sleep, and rest. But later, I discovered something far more valuable. It could be a classroom. Not a classroom with desks or chalkboards, but one where every dollar that came in or went out was a lesson. See, wealth doesn't start in your wallet, it starts in your awareness. And the best place to build that awareness is right where you live. Every bill that arrives, every purchase you make, every payment that leaves your hand, it's all trying to teach you something about your habits, your values, and your direction. The tragedy is that most people never stop long enough to study their own money. They live through it, but they don't learn from it. I remember a time when I treated bills like enemies, unwanted guests that showed up every month, but one day I changed my attitude. I said to myself, if I'm going to pay these bills anyway, I might as well learn something from them. So I started writing them down. Every expense, every purchase, every little decision. And let me tell you, that was one of the most eye-opening experiences of my life. Because when you start tracking your money, you start tracking your mindset. You begin to see patterns. You notice that what feels small every day adds up to something enormous by the end of the month. You realize how often emotion, not reason, dictates where your money goes. And once you see that, you can't unsee it, you start changing. I often tell people, turn your home into the first financial seminar you ever attend. Make it a place where everyone learns the language of money. Don't hide financial discussions from your family, invite them in. If you've got kids, teach them what a bill means, how to save, how to give, how to plan. If you've got a spouse, make sure every dollar leaving your home leaves with purpose. Wealth doesn't grow in secrecy, it grows in awareness. The more transparent you are with your household, the more united you become in your financial goals. Now, here's a simple practice that can change everything. Keep a money journal for 30 days. Write down every dollar that comes in and every dollar that goes out. Don't judge it, just observe it. After a month, sit down and study it. Ask yourself, which of these dollars built my future and which ones just disappeared? Then pick one recurring expense, just one, and turn it around. Cancel a subscription you never use and redirect that money into savings. Or better yet, use it to start something small that can bring income later. That's how transformation begins, not with huge windfalls, but with small awakenings. When your home becomes a classroom, money stops being a mystery. It becomes a tool, a teacher, and a mirror showing you exactly where your growth lies. And once you start learning those lessons, you'll never look at a bill or a dollar the same way again. I once heard someone say, most people spend their whole lives buying what others created instead of creating what others will buy. And that hit me hard because that was me once. I was a consumer, I earned, I spent, and then I started the cycle again. My entire energy went into keeping up, not building up. But wealth doesn't come from consumption, it comes from creation. The poor consume what they earn, while the rich create from what they learn. And when I finally understood that truth, it changed not just my finances, it changed my entire outlook on life. Think about it. Every day, we consume, we watch, we scroll, we buy, we eat, we spend, but few stop to ask, what am I creating? See, when you shift from consuming to creating, you flip the entire equation of your life. You stop being dependent on the efforts of others and start building something of your own. And that's the beginning of real freedom. It doesn't matter if what you create is small, a product, a service, a skill, a piece of content. What matters is that it begins to generate, not just deplete. Because the moment your efforts start creating value for others, money begins to find its way back to you naturally. I remember the first time I applied this idea in my own life. Back when I was broke, I used to buy motivational books and cassette tapes. I loved listening to great speakers and thinkers. But at some point, I realized I was spending hundreds of dollars a year learning from others, but never using that knowledge to create anything myself. So I decided to change. I started taking notes, writing lessons in my own words, and sharing ideas with my friends. Before long, someone asked if I could teach a small workshop at a local community group. That little event turned into something bigger, and soon I was earning money teaching the very ideas I had once paid to learn. That's when I understood your hobbies, your interests, your passions can all become tools for production, not just consumption. So here's a simple way to start. Pick one thing you love spending money or time on. Maybe it's photography, music, writing, fitness, or even cooking. And ask yourself, how could I turn this into something that produces? Maybe you teach it, record it, sell it, or create something related to it. Then, every day, take 1 hour that you normally spend consuming, watching TV, scrolling online, or browsing, and replace it with an hour of creation. In 1 month, you'll start to see change. In 1 year, you'll see transformation. Even in your home, look around. There are unused items that could be sold, repurposed, or traded for something more valuable. Creation isn't just about adding new things. It's about bringing new life to what's already there. The moment you stop consuming mindlessly and start creating intentionally, your life begins to compound, because creation brings energy, purpose, and prosperity. And that, my friends, is when you stop losing money and start building your own economy. I'll tell you something I learned the hard way. The more comfortable you become, the more control you lose. It's a strange paradox. We chase convenience, believing it buys us freedom, but in truth, it often sells us into quiet bondage. Every small convenience has a hidden cost, not just in money, but in discipline, creativity, and strength. And here's what I discovered. Comfort, left unchecked, will rob you of your future, one swipe, one delivery, one luxury at a time. See, we live in a world that sells ease at every corner. You can have food delivered without lifting a finger, entertainment streamed instantly, and goods arriving the next day with a single click. It feels efficient, but in many ways, it's a trap. You stop cooking, you stop walking, you stop thinking, and slowly, your independence erodes. You don't even realize that while you're gaining convenience, you're losing resilience. The wealthy understand this deeply. They don't buy convenience, they buy capacity. They invest in things that stretch them, not soften them. I remember a time when I was caught in this exact trap. I had subscriptions for everything, streaming platforms, magazines, automatic deliveries, and even pre-packed meals. One day, I added it all up. You wouldn't believe it. I was spending hundreds of dollars every month just to make life easier. But here's what I asked myself. Easier for what? Was I buying back my time? No. I was just spending to avoid small efforts that could have built character, skill, or awareness. So I canceled them, one by one. Not only did I save money, I gained clarity. I started cooking again, saved money, and improved my health. I stopped buying on impulse, gained control and focus. I started making things by hand, walking instead of driving, reading instead of watching. Each small shift gave me a new sense of power. Here's a challenge I give to anyone who feels their money just disappears. Conduct a convenience audit. Go through your spending and circle every expense you make for comfort, not necessity. That daily coffee delivery, those streaming apps, the memberships you barely use. Ask yourself, does this bring growth or just ease? Then, pick one and cancel it this week. Take the money you save, even if it's just $20, and redirect it into what I call your growth fund. Use it to buy a book, take a course, or start an investment account. Watch how that one decision begins to change your mindset. Wealth isn't built through shortcuts, it's built through steady, conscious effort. Every time you choose effort over ease, you strengthen your financial muscle. And that's what success really is. Small disciplines practiced over time. So the next time convenience tempts you, pause and remember, every dollar spent on comfort could have been a seed planted for growth. Don't trade your future for ease today, because while comfort fades, capacity compounds. When I was young and broke, I thought the only way to make more money was to work more hours. But then my mentor told me something that changed my life. He said, don't just work harder, work smarter. And the only way to work smarter is to learn smarter. That day, I realized something powerful. Every book, every class, every skill I picked up could become an asset, one that didn't depreciate, didn't rust, didn't break, and couldn't be taken from me. Knowledge, my friends, is the only investment that pays you forever. Most people spend their lives buying things that lose value the moment they swipe the card, clothes that fade, gadgets that age, cars that depreciate the moment they leave the lot. But the wealthy, they buy things that grow in value, and one of the greatest things you can buy is wisdom, because wisdom has a strange way of turning liabilities into assets. When you learn something new, you stop repeating the same mistakes. You start seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. You make better choices. And that alone saves you more money than most investments ever will. I remember when I was struggling to get by, I didn't have much, but I made a commitment. I would invest 10% of every dollar I earned into my mind. Sometimes that meant skipping a night out to buy a book. Sometimes it meant sitting in the back row of a cheap seminar, taking notes until my hand hurt. But every time I learned something valuable, my life took a step forward. I learned about communication so I could speak better. I learned about sales so I could earn more. I learned about leadership so I could influence others. And before long, I realized that education wasn't just about learning, it was about earning. The lessons I paid for once kept paying me back year after year. Here's what I tell people. Dedicate 10% of your income to personal growth. Buy the books, attend the workshops, take the online course, but don't just collect information. Turn knowledge into action. Within 48 hours of learning something new, use it. Apply one idea to your work, your business, your finances, or your relationships. That's how you transform learning into results. Because knowledge without action is just potential, but knowledge applied becomes power. And if you really want to master what you learn, teach it. When you share what you've learned, you double your understanding. Teaching locks in learning. It forces you to think, refine, and truly grasp the principles at play. Whether you teach a child, a friend, or a colleague, the act of passing on wisdom multiplies its value. So, stop treating education as an expense and start treating it as your most reliable investment. Every dollar you put into your mind pays dividends for life. Let your knowledge pay you back, because while money can be lost or stolen, wisdom compounds forever. I've met people who say, if only I had more, I could do more. But let me tell you something, most people already have more than they realize. The problem isn't a lack of resources, it's a lack of awareness. We sit on gold, but we never dig. We wait for new opportunities when we haven't yet used the ones already in our hands. And that's the real tragedy, because the wealth you're seeking might be hiding in plain sight, disguised as your unused time, your forgotten possessions, or your unshared knowledge. When I first began studying success, one of the greatest lessons I learned was this: money doesn't just come from outside, it comes from within. It comes from your ability to recognize value where others see ordinary. See, the wealthy look at everything they have and ask, how can this serve someone else? Because value is the bridge between what you have and what you earn. I remember when I was young, I had very little money, but I had time, and I had a knack for communication. So instead of complaining about what I didn't have, I decided to use what I did have. I started giving small talks at local clubs, nothing fancy, just lessons I'd learned about personal growth and mindset. At first, I wasn't paid much. Sometimes, not at all. But those little talks sharpened my skill, built my confidence, and soon became a source of income that grew into a career. That's the power of monetizing what you already possess. It turns your existing gifts into streams of opportunity. So, here's the first step. Make a list. Write down everything you own, everything you can do, and everything you know that holds value. Your car, your camera, your tools, your books, your computer, even your experiences. Somewhere in that list lies a seed of income. Maybe it's renting out something you don't use. Maybe it's selling things, collecting dust in your garage. Or maybe it's teaching what you know, because knowledge packaged correctly becomes one of the most powerful assets you'll ever own. Think of it this way. The things in your home that don't serve you could serve someone else. That treadmill that's been a coat rack for years, sell it. The spare room collecting boxes, rent it. The hobby you've mastered, painting, baking, photography, someone out there is willing to pay to learn it. And here's what happens when you begin to monetize what you already have. Your mindset changes. You stop seeing lack and start seeing abundance. You stop asking, what can I buy? And start asking, what can I build? That shift alone can change the entire direction of your life. So, take inventory, take initiative, and take action. Don't wait for something new to arrive. Use what's already within reach. Because the truth is, you're already surrounded by opportunity. You just need to start digging where you stand. Debt is one of those things that carries a quiet power. It can either be a ladder to freedom or a chain to your future. Most people fear debt, and yet they treat it carelessly. They borrow for toys, for fleeting pleasures, for consumption that vanishes as soon as the bill arrives. And that, my friends, is where the trap lies. Misused debt becomes a prison, quietly robbing you of opportunity, independence, and peace of mind. But used wisely, debt can be leverage, a tool that magnifies your ability to build wealth rather than diminish it. The first step is understanding your debt with clarity. Don't lump it all together. Divide it into two categories, productive debt and consumptive debt. Productive debt is what you borrow to acquire something that increases in value or generates income, a business loan, an investment property, or even education that enhances your earning potential. Consumptive debt, on the other hand, buys things that lose value instantly. A new car that depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot, expensive gadgets, lavish vacations, or the endless revolving credit card cycle. Once you have clarity, you tackle consumptive debt aggressively. This is the debt that silently erodes your future. Make it a priority to pay it down. Direct any extra income or windfalls toward these liabilities. Celebrate every milestone, every debt eliminated increases not just your financial freedom, but your confidence. Clearing this clutter creates breathing room, a margin to think bigger, and the ability to use money as a tool rather than a burden. At the same time, learn to use good debt intelligently. This is debt that works for you. Consider a small business loan to expand a proven venture, or a mortgage for a property that generates rental income. Used correctly, this debt doesn't take from you, it gives. It multiplies your capacity to earn and invest, giving you a lever to reach opportunities that might otherwise be out of reach. But discipline is essential. Never use credit casually. Only leverage it when you are confident the debt will return more value than it costs you. I remember early in my career when I had no money to speak of, I watched carefully how my mentors handled debt. They weren't afraid of it, but they were respectful of it. They used it to build income streams while avoiding the trap of consumer debt. That lesson stuck with me. Debt itself isn't the enemy. Your relationship with it determines whether it helps or harms you. So, take inventory, categorize, eliminate the liabilities, and leverage the productive. Treat debt like a businessman, not a borrower, and you'll transform what most see as a burden into a stepping stone toward lasting wealth. Every dollar you earn is like a soldier in your personal financial army. If it sits idle in a wallet or a checking account, it's not just resting, it's missing its mission. Money that isn't working quietly drains opportunities because opportunity waits for no one. Wealth isn't built by income alone. It's built by making each dollar report for duty consistently, strategically, and intelligently. The first principle is simple. Every dollar must have a purpose. Think of it as a three-part mission. Some of it provides for your living, the essentials that allow you to function, to eat, to have shelter, and to participate in life without chaos. Some of it grows investments, savings, education, assets that generate more money over time, and some of it gives to causes, to your family, or to the community. This is where gratitude and perspective enter the equation. When money is allowed to circulate in purposeful channels, it multiplies far beyond simple arithmetic. To put this into practice, start with a rule of thumb, a simple 70/30 allocation. 70% of your income covers living expenses. 30% goes toward growth, investments, education, and income-producing ventures. When unexpected windfalls arrive, a bonus, a tax refund, or a gift, resist the temptation to spend freely. Reinvest it immediately. Let that money enter the growth channel and work for you, compounding quietly while you sleep. A monthly review is critical. Treat your finances as a business. Ask yourself, did every dollar I earned this month report for duty? How did it perform? Which dollars created new opportunities, and which were idle or wasted? Tracking not only creates awareness, but reinforces the habit of intentional allocation. Over time, the compounding effect of this discipline far exceeds the returns from working extra hours. I recall when I began paying attention to this principle in my own life. Money that might have been wasted was now deployed strategically. I watched my savings grow, investments multiply, and opportunities expand, all because no dollar sat idle, no dollar was left without a purpose. The essence of wealth is not in how much you earn, but in how intelligently your money works for you. Give every dollar a job, hold it accountable, and it will repay you exponentially over time. Your financial freedom begins the moment your money starts obeying orders, instead of you obeying every impulse. Comfort is the silent thief that quietly erodes ambition. Many people work hard their entire lives, yet find themselves living paycheck to paycheck, trapped in a cycle where every raise, every bonus is immediately swallowed by a slightly fancier car, a bigger house, or more indulgent living. True wealth, however, begins the moment you learn to put comfort on hold and prioritize building cash flow first. The rich understand this principle intuitively. They buy freedom before luxuries. They focus on acquiring assets and income streams that pay for life rather than upgrading lifestyle prematurely. The first step in putting this principle into action is to redirect every bonus, raise, or unexpected windfall into investments that generate income. It could be dividend-paying stocks, rental properties, small business ventures, or digital products that sell themselves. These assets become the silent workforce of your finances, working while you sleep, while you focus on creating more value, or even while you enjoy life. By contrast, spending that same money on immediate comfort produces nothing and delays true financial freedom. Next, ensure that your indulgences are funded by cash flow, not by your labor. When you can buy a vacation, a car, or other comforts entirely with the returns from your investments. You no longer trade time for pleasure, and that is the essence of freedom. Keep a careful ledger of which expenses are being paid by your money-making assets versus your paycheck. This awareness fosters discipline, reinforces delayed gratification, and trains your mind to prioritize cash flow generating choices over fleeting pleasures. I remember the early years of my own journey when I faced the temptation to upgrade lifestyle at every small milestone. The immediate discomfort felt challenging, yet each disciplined decision created multiple income streams that later allowed luxuries to arrive effortlessly, funded entirely by the assets I had cultivated. That pattern repeated, and over time, my labor became secondary to the returns generated by the systems I built. The essence of this principle is simple. Wealth grows when cash flow precedes comfort. Prioritize building income-generating assets first. Delay indulgence until your money works for you. And track the proportion of expenses funded by cash flow versus labor. Comfort will always be tempting, but ambition and freedom demand that you invest in assets before indulging in luxuries. By doing so, you ensure that every dollar works for you, every decision compounds your financial independence, and every luxury you enjoy is truly a reward, not a burden. Financial freedom begins not when you earn more, but when your assets earn for you. Every problem, every complaint, every frustration carries within it a hidden seed of opportunity. Most people see problems and recoil, wishing they didn't exist. The wealthy, however, have trained their minds to listen carefully, to discomfort theirs and others, and to ask a simple but powerful question: how can I turn this into value? Every complaint, every inconvenience, every repeated frustration is a signal pointing toward a solution that someone would pay for. The ability to see wealth where others see inconvenience is the secret that separates those who merely earn a living from those who build enduring financial independence. The first step in this process is awareness. Begin by writing down recurring frustrations you face personally or observe in your community, workplace, or industry. These are your raw materials. For example, if you notice that scheduling appointments in your neighborhood is always chaotic, or that finding reliable home services is frustrating, you've just uncovered a potential business opportunity. These annoyances are not nuisances. They are signals from the market. Each problem represents a gap where people are willing to exchange money for a solution. Next, think creatively about how to solve these problems. Solutions don't have to be perfect at first, they need to be actionable. Design a product, service, or process that addresses the issue in a meaningful way. You could start with a simple service, a small online tool, or even a refined workflow that saves people time or reduces frustration. For instance, in my early career, I noticed inefficiencies in communication between suppliers and local stores. Instead of ignoring it, I designed a simple process that streamlined transactions, and that small improvement created measurable income. Testing your solution on a small scale is crucial. The market will tell you whether your idea has value. Start with one client, one user, or a single small batch of your product. Gather feedback, refine your approach, and then gradually scale. The key is patience and attention to detail. Rushing to scale without validating the solution risks failure, while careful incremental growth builds both profit and confidence. Finally, understand that every problem has multiple angles for monetization. You might sell the solution directly, license it, or use it to enhance your existing assets. Over time, a habit of observing, solving, and scaling transforms you into a wealth creator, someone who doesn't just earn, but multiplies value. Every problem becomes a stepping stone, every frustration a potential profit center. In life and business, opportunities are abundant, but only to those who are willing to see problems as possibilities. Start today. Observe, document, solve, and scale. Turn every complaint into a cash flow, and watch how problems cease to be obstacles and instead become the building blocks of your financial freedom. Wealth is rarely the result of sudden strokes of luck or overnight success. It is the product of countless small, consistent actions compounded over time. Most people get discouraged because they look for immediate gratification, expecting big results from small efforts. The truth is, patience and discipline are the invisible architects of fortune. The rich understand this principle intimately. They think long-term but act daily. Every choice, every habit, every dollar saved or invested is a brick laid toward a future of financial freedom. Daily consistency, more than sporadic brilliance, builds lasting wealth. The first step in thinking long-term is to define your vision clearly. Without a clear target, daily actions lack purpose, and you drift from one task to another without measurable progress. Write down specific, achievable 5-year goals, and then break them into smaller, actionable steps. For instance, if your aim is to have $100,000 invested in the next 5 years, calculate how much you need to save and invest monthly, then translate that into weekly and daily habits. Daily execution is the engine that propels long-term objectives. Once you have your goals defined, automate wherever possible. Repetition is the mother of habit, and habit is the mother of wealth. Automate transfers to savings, investments, and even personal growth accounts. Set reminders for reviewing finances, paying bills, and tracking expenses. By embedding these small actions into a daily routine, you remove reliance on motivation, which ebbs and flows, and replace it with a system that works whether you feel like it or not. Over time, these tiny, seemingly insignificant actions accumulate into substantial financial growth. Quarterly reviews are the compass that keeps your long-term journey on track. Life is dynamic, and circumstances change. Reviewing your progress every 3 months allows you to measure results, celebrate small victories, and make adjustments before minor deviations become major setbacks. This reflection ensures that your long-term vision remains aligned with your actions. You learn to pivot without panic, to optimize without abandoning your discipline, and to appreciate the journey rather than just the destination. The key is to cultivate a mindset where every day counts. No single day will make or break your wealth, but each day presents an opportunity to inch closer to your financial goals. Patience doesn't mean inaction, and long-term thinking doesn't mean procrastination. Wealth is built one disciplined day at a time, compounded by the consistency of your choices. Commit to acting today, every day, and trust the process. Your future self will thank you for the small steps you take now. Wealth is rarely created in isolation. The truth is, opportunities, ideas, and capital often flow through people before they flow into accounts. The richer your relationships, the greater your access to knowledge, resources, and collaborations that accelerate your financial journey. It's not just about knowing people, it's about connecting with the right people, those who think in terms of growth, long-term results, and contribution rather than short-term gain. Relationships are the invisible infrastructure of wealth, and like any infrastructure, they require planning, maintenance, and investment. The first step is intentional networking. Don't attend events blindly or passively exchange business cards. Seek gatherings, workshops, or forums where learning, innovation, and problem-solving occur. The people in these spaces have the mindset you want to emulate. Observe how they think, the questions they ask, and the opportunities they pursue. When you intentionally place yourself among those who stretch your mind, your habits, ideas, and decisions begin to elevate naturally. I've seen countless examples in my own life where a single conversation with a mentor or peer opened doors that would have otherwise remained closed. Adding value before asking for value is another critical principle. Give more than you take, offer help before you need it, and share insights without expecting immediate returns. Relationships built on genuine generosity foster trust and loyalty. When you consistently contribute to others' success, you become the person they think of when opportunities arise. I remember early in my career, I spent more time helping colleagues and friends than worrying about my own gain. Months later, those same individuals returned the favor in unexpected ways. Introductions, partnerships, and mentorship that directly accelerated my wealth. Regular communication and follow-up are essential to maintaining these connections. Mentorship is not a one-time event, nor is networking a single occurrence. Schedule time to check in with mentors, peers, and collaborators. Share progress, offer updates, and continue to seek ways to add value. Strong relationships compound over time just like money does. A connection nurtured over years can provide insights, opportunities, and partnerships that no amount of independent effort can replicate. Ultimately, your network determines your net worth. By surrounding yourself with those who inspire growth, uphold discipline, and act with integrity, you create a fertile environment for wealth to flourish. Build relationships not just for what you can take, but for what you can give, and watch how your financial and personal life transform as a result. Wealth flows where relationships are nurtured. Make your connections count. Money has its own language, and until you become fluent, you will always be at the mercy of those who are. It's not just about counting dollars or tracking expenses. It's about understanding the mechanics, principles, and forces that govern wealth. Cash flow, compounding, leverage, assets versus liabilities. These are not just abstract terms. They are the tools, grammar, and syntax of financial literacy. Speaking the language of money allows you to read opportunities where others see chaos, to act decisively instead of reactively, and to grow wealth intelligently rather than by chance. The first step is deliberate learning. Dedicate yourself to understanding one new financial term or concept each day. Perhaps today it's compound interest, tomorrow diversification, and the next day net worth. Don't just memorize the definition, find a way to apply it in your personal finances. For instance, if you learn about compounding, set up an investment account and let even a small contribution grow over time. The principle only becomes powerful when practiced. Studying trends is equally essential. Markets, economies, and industries shift constantly, but the wealthiest individuals approach these shifts with intellect, not emotion. Weekly reviews of trends, whether in stock markets, real estate, or business opportunities, allow you to anticipate movement instead of being caught off guard. Knowledge without action is sterile. Action without knowledge is reckless. Pair learning with measured application, and you are no longer a passive observer of wealth, but an active participant. Teaching what you learn to others is the final step in fluency. When you explain a concept to someone else, your comprehension deepens and you internalize the lesson. I recall mentoring a young associate on financial principles. The act of teaching forced me to organize my knowledge, clarify ambiguities, and discover gaps I hadn't realized existed. Soon, both of us were making smarter decisions, avoiding pitfalls, and creating more value with our resources. Ultimately, fluency in the language of money changes everything. It empowers decision-making, accelerates wealth building, and protects you from being led by those who understand money better than you. Speak this language daily, internalize it through practice, and share it generously. Once you do, money stops controlling you, you start controlling money. Failure is not a wall. It's a stepping stone. Too often people see financial loss as a catastrophe, a reason to quit or to blame the world. But the real enemy isn't loss itself, it's ignorance. Every misstep, every poor decision carries a lesson tucked inside like a hidden treasure. If you approach mistakes with curiosity and discipline, failure becomes tuition in the school of experience. And every dollar lost can return wisdom far more valuable than the money itself. I've seen it countless times and lived it personally when a wrong investment or overspending temporarily stings. But the insight gained sets the foundation for future abundance. The first step is reflection. After any financial setback, take the time to document what happened. Write down not just the numbers, but the choices, emotions, and assumptions that led there. Did you act impulsively? Did you overestimate your understanding of the opportunity? Did you ignore advice or research? This reflection transforms a painful loss into a clear lesson plan for the future. By analyzing errors, you gain control over patterns and prevent repeat mistakes, turning the invisible enemy of ignorance into visible knowledge. Next, extract a tangible, actionable principle from the experience. If you lost money by investing without research, your lesson is to analyze opportunities thoroughly before committing. If you overspent on non-essential items, your lesson may be to automate saving and allocate spending consciously. Lessons are most powerful when action follows insight. If you only record mistakes without acting, the tuition remains unpaid and the same trap may appear again. Finally, share the wisdom you gained. Teaching is a multiplier. When you explain your failures and the lessons learned to someone else, you cement your understanding and provide them a shortcut around similar pitfalls.